Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Students, in this lesson I will discuss about structure of human heart from textbook pages 192 to 193. So heart is a muscular organ that is responsible for pumping blood through blood vessels by repeated contractions. The term cardiac means related to the heart. The bulk of walls of heart chambers is made of cardiac muscles. In human, heart is situated between lungs in the middle of chest cavity, that is thorax under breastbone. And this heart is enclosed in a sac that is known as pericardium. There is a fluid that is known as pericardial fluid between this pericardium and the heart walls. It reduces the friction between pericardium and heart during contractions. Human heart consists of 4 chambers like the heart of the birds and other mammals. The upper thin-walled chambers are called right and left atria. Singular is atrium, and the lower thick-walled chambers are right and left ventricles. Left ventricle is the largest and strongest chamber in the heart. The heart is usually felt to be on the left side because this left chamber of the heart, that is left ventricle, is stronger and it pumps blood to all body parts. The walls of this left ventricle are the thickest one. These are about a ½ inch thick and they have enough force to push blood into the body. This gives an evidence that the structures of the parts of the heart are adaptive to their function. Did you know that human heart works as a double pump? It means that it receives deoxygenated blood from the body and pumps it to the lungs. At the same time, it receives oxygenated blood with more oxygen blood from lungs and pumps it to all body parts. Inside heart chambers, the deoxygenated and oxygenated bloods are kept separated. Here is a brief description of the circulation of blood inside heart to show its double pump mechanism. Now I have a model of a heart to show its parts. This part is superior vena cava, while this part is inferior vena cava. This is right atrium and it receives the deoxygenated blood through main veins, which are superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. When this right atrium will contract, it will push the blood into this right ventricle. The opening between the right atrium and right ventricle is a valve, is known as tricuspid valve because it has 3 flaps. When this right ventricle will contract, then the blood will push towards this pulmonary trunk, and this pulmonary trunk will carry blood to the lungs. This tricuspid valve will prevent the backflow of blood from this right atrium to this right ventricle to the right atrium. This is atrium, right atrium, and this is right ventricle. And this tricuspid valve will prevent the backflow of blood from this part to this part. This part is right ventricle and this part is right atrium. Here is pulmonary semi-lunar valve, and this valve is present here to prevent the backflow of blood from this pulmonary trunk to this right ventricle. The oxygenated blood from lungs is brought back to this heart by this pulmonary vein. Here is left atrium, here is left ventricle, and there is a valve between left atrium and left ventricle, that is bicuspid valve, because it has two flaps. The opening between this left atrium and left ventricle is guarded by a valve, that is bicuspid valve. Because it has two flaps, when left ventricle contracts, it pumps the oxygenated blood in this aorta. So here is aorta. This bicuspid valve will prevent the backflow of blood from this part, that is left ventricle, to this part, that is left atrium. This portion is known as aorta. This aorta will carry blood to all body parts except lungs. At the base of this aorta, here is aortic semilunar valve, which prevents the backflow of blood from this aorta to this left ventricle. This part was superior vena cava. This was inferior vena cava. This was right atrium, right ventricle, tricuspid valve, left atrium, left ventricle, bicuspid valve, aortic semilunar valve, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, and pulmonary semilunar valve. Both the atria are filled simultaneously. They contract together to pump the blood to both the ventricles. Similarly, both ventricles contract simultaneously to pump the blood out of heart. Human heart structure and blood flow. This part is superior vena cava, right atrium, pulmonary semilunar valve, tricuspid valve, inferior vena cava. This part is aorta. This is pulmonary artery. This is pulmonary vein, left atrium, bicuspid valve, aortic semilunar valve, left ventricle, right ventricle. So that was all about structure of a human heart. Thank you and have a nice day.